Welcome back to the Gridiron Grind with Andrew and Lance. The NFL draft is finally here. It is finally happening. We've gotten through rounds one and two and three so far. We're going to do a quick recap on some major storylines, talk about our teams because, we got to talk about our teams. It's just what we got to do. We'll dive into more detail on future episodes. But right now, this is kind of overview. And I think a great place to start is the wild, crazy stuff with Shedeur Sanders. So we touched on this before where we didn't believe he was the second best quarterback. We thought it was Jackson Dart and that he was number three. And we felt pretty good about that. Well, turns out the NFL doesn't even think he's a top five guy in this draft. That's just wild to me. Where at the beginning of this process, he was projected number two or number three overall. Then he dropped down to nine. Some people had him 21, but no one had him outside the first round. And now he's not even drafted in the first three rounds. I don't know what's truly going on. I know there's some intangibles that people don't like. Um, he's never really done good with pressure in his face, but man, to drop this far, to have Dylan Gabriel drafted over you, and Dylan Gabriel was some people's projections not even a draftable quarterback. It's crazy. It's crazy. What are your thoughts on this?
Um, Man, Andrew, I really don't even know where we start on this one. Because I think that here's what I think. I think there's an awful lot of hearsay, and we just don't
Hmm.
know what happened. And
Hmm.
one part I think we're underestimating is there's this really good piece a couple of years ago talking about interviews with for rookies with professional teams. It was about
Hmm.
the NBA, but there's one person that got in trouble with the law, and I can't remember what ended up happening. I think it was a like a DUI charge. And the organization asked this player, what did you learn from this experience? And his answer was that I need to be careful about who I tell what I'm going to do and who I'm going to involve in my circle of, what
Hmm.
I'm going to do my activities with. And the organization was like, that is not the answer we wanted. That is not
Hmm.
the answer. So, let's just say going through the draft process, there's one time that Shadeur just gave a really bad answer. It was a really
Hmm.
bad session. It just takes one. It just takes one time to give.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something about Dion. Maybe there's a sense of entitlement that they're just like, we don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. And like I said, it's not fair. It's not fair to just say that must be what it is. I don't think
Hmm.
that's the total truth, but you know, does a team in the NFL want to have a Kardashian vibe with their backup quarterback? I can't
Hmm.
see it. I can't see that that's.
Hmm.
But I mean, there's so many blunders. I mean, we talked about the retiring the jersey thing, but that was
Yeah.
so that was so miscalculated. That was so miscalculated and such a if they had done it this fall, would that have potentially changed when Shadeur was drafted? I don't know. I'm not saying it would, but
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah. After the
factor.
draft. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's Brett McMurphy is his name from the college level, but he said that all five quarterbacks taken before Shadeur, none of them have had their numbers retired. And
Hmm.
there's a lot of factors that go into that, but say what you want, that does not look good for Shador. That does not look good. It just
No.
one thing I will say too. You mentioned Dylan Gabriel. I think he's getting a lot of hate, and he doesn't deserve it. I feel
Yeah.
like we're at the third round now, right? Like that's when he went in the draft.
Hmm.
That's not crazy. That's not a. It's not a. Uh, it doesn't feel like an insanely tall grasp. It
Hmm.
feels realistic. Like I feel like that a team could be very realistic in arguing why they feel like Dylan Gabriel has third round potential. I mean, Oregon was the
Hmm.
number one team in college football throughout the season, and before
Right.
Dylan was at the Oregon program, where was Oregon? They were always a on the cusp team, couldn't quite get to the finish line to be able to get to
Hmm.
the college football playoffs, but he took them from a border team to a legitimate contender. I don't think that's a coincidence. I'm not saying he's everything, right? but maybe
Hmm.
he's fallen victim to a little bit of the JJ McCarthy vibes, like you would argue that, you're arguing that it's the pieces around him that are making him good, but what about him?
Hmm.
What is he bringing to the table? So the one that I think is the most puzzling is Jalen Milroe. That one I don't understand how he went before Shadeur. That's the one that I
Yeah.
was like, hmm. That one gave me a
He is a
lot of pause.
project. He is a project. If the project is successful, he could be like a top 10, top 5 guy because of his athletic prowess, but it's a very similar Anthony Richardson vibes to it. So similar to that, where he's very inaccurate, very inconsistent throwing the ball, but he's a crazy athlete. So, I mean, taking a shot, I think he was also in the third round. Taking a shot on that in the third round, that's not awful. Unlike Richardson, who was top 5 quarterback drafted, I believe.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's not awful, but still, Shedeur Sanders, to your point, he is a basically a finished product as his accuracy goes. That was not
Right,
something you're worried about with him.
right.
Him delivering the football on the field, he was a top 3 quarterback talent.
Hmm.
He is startable worthy. Jalen Milroe is not that anytime soon.
Hmm.
So taking that in the third round, that's fine. But if you're the Steelers and Sanders is there and you don't have a true answer, why not take a shot? Unless, which is what I believe, is they do have a kind of a handshake deal with Aaron Rodgers and they're gonna have Milroe develop this year, and then he's gonna take over next year. And Aaron Rodgers is gonna see where they can get with him. That's my guess because I don't have any other logical thought of why they would take Milroe over Sanders unless they think they can get something out of Milroe developing him for a year and he has higher potential than Sanders does, which I can agree with that. His potential, his ceiling is higher. And maybe they can develop that while they just let Aaron Rodgers, get 9-ish wins like the Steelers always do. And then next year at the Jalen Milroe show. That could be. That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Well, I mean, going back to the Steelers thing real quick, Steelers have gotten burned by emotional people a lot. I mean, a
Mm,
lot. You know,
hmm
uh, AJ Brown, not AJ Brown. How am I doing? Antonio Brown. Excuse me,
Different Brown.
different Brown. But Antonio Brown and oh gosh, they've had a lot of problems in that building. I'm
Le'Veon
trying to,
Bell,
but Chase Claypool. I mean, this is a guy that
Chase
he didn't even,
Claypool. Hmm
never, ever, ever lived up to the hype and
hmm
was a
Juju
major weight.
Smith-Schuster.
Yes, I mean but I'm just saying as a Steelers organization, like, but none of the NFL analysts I'm listening to are factoring that in. Like, you're not thinking about that.
Hmm
Uh, the epitome, and I'm sure you remember this because it's part of the reason why your team won. But the Vikings played the
Oh
Steelers
yeah.
in an
Hmm
essential game, and Chase Cable
hmm
catches a nothing burger first down and
Yep, and he's
proceeds to celebrate.
celebrating, just chilling, having a good old time, wasting a good 10 seconds
Well,
off the clock.
here's the part that makes me the most upset is that after that happened, why did he not get suspended? I'm serious. Like, I'm legitimately serious
Mm,
because it's not the action itself, but then to go and blame your teammate for why
mm,
that happened, it's so
hmm
immature. And it just, to me, I'd have no time for that in my team. No, you don't get to start next week. Like, if you're going to go blame someone
hmm
else for your own problem, you need to take a time out and sit down. And that's what I think like Shane Steichen did with Anthony Richardson when he tapped himself out of the game. You know what? You're not
Yep.
serious about this job. Let's just take the keys out from your hands.
hmm
Another similar moment was Nelson Aguilar when he played for the Eagles.
mm,
Had a real issue with just he was getting his own head, and Doug Peterson just eventually went, you know what, this is too much for you, and we're just going to take the keys away. And when he came back on the field, he was a different person. And so I guess tying that back to Sanders, what are you going to get? And I just think the anxiety
yeah.
is just really, really high right now. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, he's
tough.
not getting a starting gig. He's not getting a starting gig next
No,
year. Not getting
no,
drafted in the fourth, fifth, whatever round he's going to get drafted in. He's going to be a
no.
backup. unless by some crazy situation where he's drafted by either the Browns or the Steelers who already drafted a quarterback and then he beats people out. That's the only way that he's getting a starting job. But
Yeah.
I don't anticipate that happening at all. It's he's got to humble himself, take that second string gig, and maybe eventually he can overcome the starter if it's not like a, Patrick Mahomes or something like that. If he's drafted by like, I don't know, I wouldn't say the Giants because they have Dart now. Um, the Saints drafted a quarterback too. I just don't know where he goes. Everyone that has a quarterback a difficult situation drafted a quarterback. It's it's tough. It's really
Well,
tough.
and the part I always think about, like at this moment, is there's that really popular meme um, with The Simpsons, the Principal Skinner meme, where he's like questioning,
Mm,
like, "Is it me?" And he's like, "No,
hmm
it's someone else's fault." And I feel like in this
hmm
scenario, Shador could say, "Am I the reason that I'm not getting drafted?" No, no, no. It's the NFL teams. They're all just teaming up on me. And
hmm
you know,
hmm
a rule of thumb I've always followed with sports, politics, work, whatever it is you're wanting, right? Like a promotion, or if you're looking for an opportunity and you don't get it, the worst thing you can do is take the moment to say, it's someone else's fault that I didn't get it.
Yep.
Because you're not going to get any closer to the next opportunity with that thinking. Like
hmm
that doesn't solve anything, even if it's true. The better approach is to say, okay, even if I'm only 5% of the reason why this didn't work out, I'm going to take the accountability and just say right now that I'm going to make that 5% not even an issue the next time, not even,
Yeah.
a questionable cause.
hmm
Um, yeah, I don't know. It is also tough though, because, looking at the whole situation, because there is a little bit of double standard in the NFL, right? Because I'm not trying to sound like a hater, but you can't tell me that you're worried about character issues or, being distraction or
hmm
maybe not totally locked in with like the goals of the team when players like Mike Green got drafted or James Pierce got drafted or talented, but Travis Hunter. I've been a person that's been a skeptic on Hunter on, is he going to lock in and really focus on winning, or is he going to be more of the Aaron Rodgers
hmm
vibe of how can I get that MVP? How can I get to that Pro Bowl? How can I
Yeah.
put up the stats? So it's like it is hard because there's times the NFL kind of picks and chooses when it cares.
hmm
There is a difference though with the quarterback issue, because the quarterback, you're the face of the team. You're the number one face of the team, always.
Yep. Absolutely. I did think of two interesting places he could land. I mentioned one of these to you in our offline chat, but the other one I'm thinking of is a team that has a quarterback that is fine, but not great, and is about to have a huge payday, or maybe they don't pay him. And
Mm,
that's the 49ers and Brock Purdy.
mm, mm.
What if
Okay.
they drafted Shedeur Sanders now? Because they drafted two really good defensive players first two rounds. I forgot who they got in the third or the fourth, but or the third round, I mean. So had a good draft so far, revamping their team a little bit. Why not just pick a rookie quarterback that has good traits to him and not pay Brock Purdy 50, $60 million a year? And maybe see if you can trade him. I don't know. Just throwing that out there. And the other one I was thinking of that I mentioned to you is it'd be funny, but if he went to the Cowboys and then in 2 years the Cowboys got rid of Dak and fired their coach, and then Dion comes to town, that'd be a totally Jerry Jones plan right there. That's probably something he's thinking of down the line. What if in 2 years? Yeah, that'd be funny. I'd be down for that, honestly, just for the entertainment factor.
Mm. The teams I thought of for me, I think Tampa Bay makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because I don't because Baker's awesome. I love Baker, but he's not really a Super Bowl winning caliber quarterback. At least not with the team they got. So,
Well,
yeah.
he's also 30, almost, well, he's 30 years old. Like he's not a spring
hmm
chicken. Um,
Right. Right.
you should view him as a Geno Smith if you're a professional team, right? He's not a,
hmm
slightly younger. But I thought he would make sense. Do the Jets,
hmm
do they think about him?
Yeah.
That could make sense. I could
Yeah.
see that happening.
He
Um,
could start there still because they just have Fields. He could beat out
Here's
Justin Fields.
here's what I hope happens for Sanders. I hope a team like Philadelphia or Baltimore takes him because now
Mm,
you're at the point the danger's gone. I mean, to me, if I'm a team like and I'm thinking about taking him, the danger of whether or not he's going to really be viewed as a threat to the starting quarterback that should now be out the
hmm
window with how late it is in the draft. But maybe that'd be a good place for him to go and rehab his image around the
hmm
NFL. I don't
Yeah.
know if Philadelphia would take him, but Baltimore, I think, makes a ton of sense. And Cooper Rush is not a long term answer as a backup, or
Yeah.
so I think that could make sense. Um, I have to think about other teams right now. I'm not sure that there's any that really come to maybe
The one that
Buffalo.
popped in my head was the Raiders, but I don't know if a coach like Pete Carroll, who probably only has 2 or 3 years, if we're being honest, because of his age, he's not going to be coaching until he's 80. That's crazy.
Hmm.
I don't know if he wants to have that distraction, so to speak, when he's trying to build. He's trying to build something there. He's trying to build a good locker room. He's trying to build a good organization, just everything from the ground up, start over. I don't think that's what he wants. If there was a different coach and not a Pete Carroll, I would think, hey, because Gino's up there in age too. He's like 32, 33, that range.
34.
30, well, okay, he's 34. Yeah, so that would make sense, but not the coaching staff. They're trying to build a culture, and I don't think Shadur is going to fit that right now. Um, and then the Seahawks, they already drafted their quarterback that actually they drafted Milrow. It wasn't the Steelers. It was the Seahawks who drafted Milrow.
Right.
So they already got their quarterback. I was thinking because Sam Darnold's not really an answer. He's okay, but yeah, I can't really think of anyone else, any other team out
Well,
there.
I would say as a caveat to what you're saying about Las Vegas is maybe that would be a good spot for him. Pete Carroll saw something in Geno Smith that no one in the NFL did
Hmm.
see. He
And
got
Russell
Geno
Wilson.
to a level, yeah. I mean, absolutely. But he got those quarterbacks to a level that no one
Yep.
has been able to do with either quarterback. I mean, Russell Wilson was not anywhere close to this, to what he was in Seattle
Right.
with the Steelers, and same thing in Denver.
Hmm.
And maybe there's just so many different factors. We just don't know everything, and I think that's the toughest part with the Sanders situation.
Hmm.
How humble is he really? How what attitude did he give off? I mean, I remember reading the articles talking about Dion saying that they were going to choose which team he was going to go to.
Yep.
That's not fictitious. That is not a made up
Yep.
story. Like he did say that. Stupid. I mean, that was definitely
Hmm.
something that was not helpful. Um, it's just hard, man. Dion is such a good coach in what he's done at Colorado. I just feel like that it's
Yeah.
so hard because as a coach, you can't be a diva. Like you can't,
Hmm.
because for example, right? Maybe some people might say that Dion's like Nick Sirianni, and I would vehemently disagree with that. I think
Mm.
there's a difference between passion and emotion and
Mm.
thinking that you are a center of reality. And I don't think that that's ever left Dion's mind since he left the NFL. He still feels like he's a central
Prime
figure.
time.
Exactly. I mean that's
Yep.
fair. I mean that was his segment when he was on NFL Network. I remember that on Sunday nights. There was
Hmm.
the prime time segment about who were the best showcasers in the NFL. But
Hmm.
that's not the vibe he's given off to me. Like I would not say that's the vibe
Yeah.
that he's not going for the Nicky Sirianni emotional, fired up, rah 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 guy.
Yeah.
It's more than that.
And his son is the same way. Shadur celebrating on the sidelines with his watch, mocking the crowd, mocking the other team. I don't want that in my locker room. There's a difference between being competitive and being stupid. And to me, that's borderline stupid, going and mocking the other team, making them want to actually hurt you because they have the ability to on a football field. They can get away with it, in a manner of speaking. Why are you doing that? That's dumb. Have fun, be competitive, but don't be dumb.
Yeah,
Yeah, and especially not from the quarterback position. There's been
right.
receivers that's done it, T.O., Randy Moss. They're you almost expect that a little bit from receivers, but not from your quarterback. No, you can't
Right.
do it. You can't be the leader of the team and on the sidelines mocking the other team, showing your watch. That's just silly. And your dad, the coach, just letting you do that. Mm-mm. I would have stopped that day one. Like, if you want to play, you're not doing that. And Dion did not stop it. Just continued. And that could be a factor of why he's sliding as well. No one wants that circus on the sidelines.
Yeah. It is weird though, because like there's players I can think of right now that I'm like, yeah, but there's these players, there's this player, there's it,
Hmm.
it's tough. I mean, there's I mentioned it in our chat, but I kind of can see a concern of like the Ball family from the NBA. I could kind of see
Hmm.
that being a part of this equation too. One part I did want to mention that I don't think we discussed, um, the difference in caliber of quarterbacks in this draft do not feel drastically different between each quarterback. And I think that's important to point out. You know, it's not like Cam Ward aside, right? Number one, for sure, he's the number one. I would say, based off everything I'm reading, that is the number
Hmm.
one guy, no issue. But when I'm looking at the analysis of the other quarterbacks, I don't get this sense that there's like this huge drop off from 2 to 8. There's a drop off, right? There's a
Hmm.
difference, but is it like steep? Is it
Hmm.
drastic? And at this point, I think that the NFL is telling you no, it's not drastic. And when we're
Yep.
weighing all factors, maybe it is better to go with someone else. You know, like the Giants got a lot of flack for taking Jackson Dart at the end of the first round. I look at the trade and what they traded to get Jackson Dart, and I say that's a B plus A minus move. Like I like
They didn't
this.
give up a lot. Yeah, they gave up a late three and then next year's three. That's not bad.
That's not bad. And
Yeah.
you've guaranteed the fifth year option. And
Hmm.
but there's like a difference in quarterbacks too. Like you can't ask Shador to come in and run a Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson offense. And that's what the
Right.
Giants are looking for. And so they needed someone like Jackson Dart that's willing to be more mobile and
They had that in Daniel
springy in his
Jones.
step.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's a whole lot there, man. I'm interested to see where he goes. I'm wishing him the best. I do. I
Yep.
hope that he
Yeah. Yeah.
so. But yeah, hopefully those narratives can get put to bed. I hope that whenever he gets taken, that he'll just take it as an opportunity to say it's on me. You know, I need to get
Hmm.
better. Don't embrace the
Hmm.
noise, the narratives. Don't highlight things. Just come in and work hard,
Treat it like a Tom Brady situation. He was drafted in the sixth round.
right? Russell Wilson was in the third round. Dak Prescott
Hmm.
was a late pick. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Kirk Cousins was a late pick as well. He's had a
yeah. Well,
good
and Kirk
career
Cousins was picked after Robert
after
Griffin.
Yep.
You know,
Exactly.
talk about a tough
Hmm.
situation, and he navigated it like a pro. Um,
Yep. And he is a great negotiator.
he is in the Sports Business Hall of Fame, according to Andrew Brandt,
Hmm.
who has
Hmm.
occasionally retweeted my tweets. Andrew, that is my claim to fame.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Well, I think
Um,
we've talked enough about Shadur. We touched on that a
okay.
lot. I think next we should touch on some of those trades that happened in the first round. We'll dive into
Yeah.
each pick and talk at the good fit if we like it or not. But I think it'd be fun to talk about those trades. And so we can start from the top to the bottom. I have the trades up here. Obviously, the first one was number two overall, Browns and Jaguars. And looking at it, I definitely sided with Cleveland on this trade. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I don't I don't feel like Jacksonville made a horrible decision. They paid a lot, but if they believe Travis Hunter is a team-changing player, go get him. I've I've never had a huge problem with going to get your guy if you truly believe in that guy. Now, if you're wrong and you're losing all this. But if you're right, it doesn't matter what you gave up. It doesn't matter at all. So in this instance, Cleveland got the number five, number 36, number 126, and a first round next year from the Jaguars. And Jaguars got the number two, 104, and 200. So it definitely favors Cleveland as far as the value goes. But again, everyone was saying that Travis Hunter was the best player in this draft. not everyone, some said Abdul Carter, but they were 1-2, like interchangeable. And
Right.
if
That's
that's
fair.
a difference making player, go get him. Go get him. So I'm not like huge hating on the Jaguars' value, what they gave up. But overall, I do feel like Cleveland won that trade, obviously, because they got 2 second-round picks now. Well, they already used those, and they have a first round next year with Jacksonville, and Jacksonville might not be all that good. They're going to be better than last year, but how much better? It's all going to depend on Trevor Lawrence because they have some good pieces in offense. ETN, Brian Thomas Jr. Now they have Travis Hunter, who's going to play a little bit of both sides probably. So like they got some pieces, but last year they won what, like 6 games, I think, something like that. Are they going to bump up to 8 or 9? Maybe, but I don't anticipate that. So which means their first round pick is going to be probably a top 12 pick. And that's really good value that the Cleveland Browns are getting. And I kind of know what they're planning. They're going to try to package that up with their first round pick to move up and get Archie Manning next year.
Mhm.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm guessing. That's what their eyes are on. Compete this year, play hard. They picked up Mason Graham with their fifth pick. That's awesome. Their D line is going to be looking really good with him. And then pick 36, I believe they got the linebacker from UCLA. Um,
Right.
so they're shoring up that defense. That's awesome. And then they went and picked up Quinton Junkins in the third round, I think it was. Or is it the other second round pick? Anyway,
There's the
whatever it
second
was.
round. Yeah, he was the
Okay.
second of their second round picks. Oh, enjoy the balloons.
Celebrate.
Congratulations.
Now I didn't agree with that pick. I liked Trevion Henderson better than Judkins, but it kind of fits their style. They're a power running team, and he's a power back, so I get it. Um, that's what I think they're doing. They got some good pieces in this draft. They're looking to next year and getting their quarterback next year.
Mhm.
But yeah, overall, I like what they did in that trade. Mason Graham's going to be great. And by the way, we got 8 picks right. I think that's pretty decent in our last mock. We didn't get all the landing spots because Mason Graham at 5, we still had the Jaguars there, I believe. Um,
Mhm.
but still, Mason Graham went 5. We got that right. So I think we did pretty good getting 8 picks right. And a lot of them were really close. They were like one off or they just fell a couple spots. So I think our mock went really well. But yeah, overall, I didn't mind Jacksonville's amount they gave up, but I really like Cleveland and what they got from that.
This is interesting, Andrew, because I feel the complete opposite. I
Oh yeah.
did not like this trade at all. Like I said, Hunter's a great player. I understand why they traded up for him. I get it,
Hmm.
but I did not like this trade. I mean, everything they gave up,
It was a lot.
it seriously reminded me of draft day at that moment where the Jaguars GM gives up his first round pick for 3 second round picks. Like it just felt like that level of, was this an incompetent decision? And it's too soon to say. It's fair. It's
Right.
too soon to say.
Right.
But I got major draft day vibes of he's going to be immortalized as the totally living up to the rookie GM Jaguars vibe from the draft day movie. And it's too soon to say, but they moved up 3 spots, Andrew. Like that's it.
Hmm.
That was not.
Hmm.
Here's the thing I look at with this trade. This reminded me a lot of the Julio Jones trade, except the Julio Jones trade, like the Falcons moved up the board to get to where they were. I think they were like more than 10 spots away when they moved up, and they gave up a very similar trade to go and get him. So Travis Hunter better be Julio Jones. That's all I'm gonna say. Like that, he better be pretty
Hmm.
close to him because if he's not, this was an absolute flop. And this is the type of move I think you make if you're trying to get people in the stands. That's how I
It's fair.
perceive this move. I don't think this is a
Yeah.
W like get more wins. It's get more people to come to the games, buy into what we're doing, and get them
Hmm.
excited about Jacksonville Jaguars football. That's kind of how I got that's my vibe from it. So that's
Hmm.
fine. That's respectable. I just don't, it doesn't strike me as a winning formula. This is just, I don't know if
Hmm.
this gets them closer to being playoff competitive, because
Hmm.
like we can look at it. Is Travis Hunter going to make that much of a difference over a player like Will Campbell, Mason Graham, Ashton Genty, Armand Minbu, Ted McMillan? Like, is he going to be that much better? And like that's the thing I think you have to measure by is like, okay, so if you're telling me Ted McMillan was not good enough at 5, how good is Hunter going to be at 2? And I'm just not feeling convinced. I
Yeah.
We'll see. It's really tough, but Carolina stayed right where they were and got Ted for nothing.
Yep.
They didn't have to give up
That was a
anything.
very value pick. That was one of my favorite picks.
Uh,
Yeah, we'll get into that later, but yeah, I hear you.
I don't know. I just puzzled by the move,
Yeah.
and we'll see how it turns out.
I mean, with what they gave up, they might truly be running him ragged and making him, not making him, but allowing him to play both sides of the field. And if he's playing 70% of the snaps on both sides of the field, then that's value right there because you got basically two players at the number 2 spot to load up your lineup. And then that gives you an extra spot on your 53 because you have your wide receiver 2 or 3 and your cornerback 1 or 2 already locked up with one guy. So that gives you an extra spot on the 53. So there's ways to look at it. I mean, if they're planning that, he's gonna run so thin so quickly. He's gonna get injured more often. He's gonna have a very short career if that's how it happens. But he's under team control for at least 4 years, possibly 5. And then if he's ran on the ground after that, he won't get a second contract. And second contract's when you get paid. So Travis might want to think about that.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's fair.
All right. So the next trade, I believe, was the Giants trading up with the Texans, correct? Because we waited a
Hmm.
while for our next trade. And this was a fair value, I think, all the way around. So um, I think the reason why the Texans traded out is because of the pick that Minnesota picked. So I think because Donovan Jackson was the best guard on the on the board at the moment. He's from he's from Texas. That's where he's from. That's where he played his high school ball. And so the Texans know him really well, and they really needed a guard. And the Giants were calling Minnesota too. That's pretty much reported that the Giants called Minnesota 24. Minnesota said no because they knew Jackson would go 25. If they felt like he was going to be there at 33, 34, whenever their second round pick was 30 at 34, if they thought he would be there at 34, they would have traded down, but he wasn't going to be there. Houston was going to take him. So Giants called Houston. Houston accepted. So Houston got the 34, the 99, and a third round next year. And the Texans moved up to 25. I mean, the Giants moved up to 25 and took Jackson Dart. I think that's a fair value on both sides. Houston got an extra third round pick, an extra third round pick next year, and the Giants got their guy, got their quarterback, the one that they wanted to draft, and they didn't have to take him at 3. So I think the Giants did really well on this draft. They took the first or second best player in Abdul Carter. They traded up to get their quarterback. They didn't have to spend a whole lot. So things are looking up. Things are looking up for the men in blue right now.
Yeah, I think it's a fair trade, and I had no issues with it. I think
We're gonna
overall
get we're gonna get to the worst trade here next.
yeah, I mean, I think we've covered everything we need to on the Giants part, Andrew. Honestly, I feel
Fair.
we've covered it with Sanders. Let's just dive right into the worst trade of this NFL draft.
It could be the worst trade in like the past 10 years. I don't know. I'll have to dive into that, but this was awful. Anyway,
Oh,
so the
yeah.
Falcons at 15, I believe. I think they were at 15. They
Mhm.
drafted was it Jalen
Jalen
Walker?
Walker. Yep.
So they had a great edge rusher, great linebacker there. All right, cool. That's where they were missing. They were weak on the pass rushing standpoint last year. And then pick 26 comes with the Rams. And I read into this, and the Rams said that the Falcons called them, and the Rams said, "Yeah, we can't turn that down." They weren't planning on trading out, but you can't turn this down. So the Rams got pick 46, so they traded down from 26 to 46, so 20 spots. And then they got pick 242, so just the seventh round pick. And they gave up their 101, which was their late three. Okay, late three has some value, but then they got the 2026 first round pick from the Falcons. Their first round pick. I don't know what to say. You're giving up a first round pick to go up 20 spots when you probably could have waited and gotten a really good edge rusher still. Now, if you moved up 20 spots and you gave up a first round pick for like someone who was falling, some stud or a quarterback that was just there,
Right.
okay, whatever. But I mean, James Pierce Jr. is good. He's good. He's a good player, really good player. But you could have got like, oh, who was there at 46? Nick
Donovan
Swarton.
Azarakus.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, he was there. Yep, there were guys there that you could have kept your first round pick next year. And look at the Rams. Man, I mean, a lot of people are saying they're a Super Bowl contender this year. I don't buy it. They're a good team. They're probably going to win their division, but they're missing a few things here or there. They got Puka, but Devontae Adams is not him anymore. He's good, but he's not Devontae Adams. Their defense is really good, but it's missing some corner pieces. So they're good, but they're not quite there. And I thought,
Yeah.
man, if they pick like a first round cornerback or something, better watch out. But they traded back. It's next year that we have to watch out because that Falcons first round pick, it has the potential to be top 10. We don't know. We don't know how good Penix is. He played what, 4 games? He could be good. He could be average. The Falcons could be a 7-win team. And that first round pick could be top 10. And that may give the Rams 2 first round picks next year.
Yeah.
That
Well,
oh
but this is where like you have to factor in like even just think about it right from a standpoint. If you're the Falcons, you're making this trade. Like let's
hmm
look at what just happened right in this draft and in this offseason. The Buccaneers did not get worse this offseason. They got
hmm
somewhat better and they
hmm
retained their star players. They were able to
right.
keep Godwin. Evans is back. You have Baker Mayfield. You brought in Hassan Reddick. They
hmm
made a couple other small moves that were just like respectable, build on top of them.
hmm
But then you get to the draft, and I think we disagree most likely on how we feel about this.
As
But
far for this year, yes. For this coming season, yes. Continue.
I loved the Egbuka
hmm
draft pick. I think it's a smart. I mean, the other part too is Godwin and Evans both just came off of huge injuries,
Yeah.
right? Like you have to keep that in mind as a team that like we just had major injuries. What's on the
hmm
other side of these injuries? We don't know. So we
Right.
better, better take this value. So I don't think the Buccaneers are going anywhere. We already
hmm
talked about the McMillan pick, and I think Bryce Young is going to build on his season. I like what the Panthers are
Very
doing. I think they're going to
possible. Yeah.
be. I guess like I'm just
I'm
bringing that
with you
up
on
as
that.
a if the Falcons think that they're just going to beat the Panthers twice, no, no, that's absolutely wrong. With everything your team has done, I have no
Yeah.
faith that your team can automatically beat the Panthers. So right there, that's 4 games. I don't really know what you're going to do. Maybe the Saints are 2 wins because they're kind of like iffy right now. I'm not super confident in what they're putting together. But
hmm
the 4 other games in the division, that's already a tough road. So I don't like your chances to win the division. I already see every other division in the NFC that looks way more competitive than you as a football team do.
Right.
So now you're already saying, looking into next year, we're probably picking somewhere between 1 and 18, like at the very best. Like that's our
Yep.
outlook. You just traded for the 26th pick in this draft. What are
hmm
you doing? Like you would never, like if you could put an actual number on that future pick, you would never trade a pick that's higher in the draft next year for a pick this year,
hmm
especially in the first round.
Yep.
So the logic just doesn't check out. But we talked about Sanders, right? And we talked about some of these issues. James Pierce is a guy that does not have a flawless record because we talked about
Yep.
him in a previous podcast. He was pulled over. He was speeding. He was going like 20 or 30 miles over in a residential area. Didn't have a proper ID. Didn't have proper paperwork for the car. I mean, it just didn't look good. And there's other issues we brought up too.
Hmm.
So this is not a flawless person. This is not
Right.
someone, and you're coming into a relatively, this is not a strong leadership led team right now. This team is,
No, it is not. And it starts at the top. Their ownership is not very good.
yeah. So like you just combine all those factors together, it's a loser trade. I just,
Yep.
I don't know.
Worst trade in a
James
long
Pierce,
time.
he could come out and be something I don't expect. I just, I think the Eagles in round one did a great job of looking at this board. And despite all
Yeah.
the rumors of, hey, you got to go get this
Hmm.
person, you got to go get this person, no, they just stayed pat. And I think they did a
Hmm.
good job in the process. But I mean, we could look at everybody. I think the Ravens did a fantastic job of looking at
Yeah.
value and looking what's
Starks.
coming to them.
Hmm.
I think that the Lions did a fantastic job. The Commanders did a great job. The Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, the back end just did a good job of let's be patient. Let's see what
Yep.
comes to us. The board's falling the way we like it. It doesn't matter if out of these next five picks, we only get three of the prospects out of the eight that we were looking for at us.
Hmm.
And I just think they did a good job. So, yeah, I think the Falcons looked a little desperate in this move. And maybe they are.
Yeah.
Maybe they feel like they really need a win.
And for them to be desperate, you would think, oh, maybe we're close. We're close. We just need one or two things. They're nowhere even close to anything.
No, no.
I don't get it. They have a really good running back. They have a good receiver who I think is a little overrated. I like Drake London, but I don't think he's like a superstar. I think
That's fair.
he's a wide receiver one, but not like top 10. He's just he's a good receiver, but I don't think I'd put him in top 10. I have to look at all the receivers and rank them that way, but I think he's a little overrated. Everyone's really high on Drake London. I'm like, well, he's good, but and
I'm
then
trying to think. Would you even say he's better than Jalen Waddle or Devontae Smith or T Higgins? I don't know if I'd put him over those three.
he's probably in that group, which is fair. He's in that group, and those are wide receiver twos. So I mean, I probably put him in the middle of those guys somewhere. I don't know where exactly, but that's a good realm. That's a good tier. Those kind of guys, and those are wide receiver twos on their team.
Yeah, I mean he had amazing stats last year, but it's like it was so inflated because he's the only main wide
Only
receiver.
one. Yeah, and we know how we feel
I mean,
about Kyle Pitts. And then their defense, they got just wrecked last year. They look very bad. So I get they're trying to get some pass rush help. They lost their D tackle. Was it Grant? Garrett. They lost their D tackle Garrett. He went to the Bears, so
right.
their D line's bad. So I mean, I get they need to replenish some defensive pieces, but man, to reach that far. Now, I did like that they
Mhm.
went and picked up Xavier Watts in the third round. I think they traded up with
Yes.
the Patriots. That's a good pick. Give them credit on that. Solid pick, great value. They didn't give up much to trade up. But this was just, yeah, I don't know. They are like 4 to 5 good pieces away from being a competitive team. Not necessarily still a good team, but a competitive team. And
Right.
they're sacrificing their future for a good player who has some issues. This isn't like they traded the first round pick for Abdul Carter. If that was the case, okay, go get your guy, go get him. But James Smith Jr. is good, but he's not first round pick addition worthy.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's interesting. That definitely some interesting ways to fall out. But
Hmm.
in particular for the Falcons, it's yeah, we'll see, man. I not
Yeah,
super confident. Not super
and
confident.
they're
By the
still
way,
paying Kirk
the
Cousins 40 million to be a backup.
speaking of the NFC South, I didn't even realize that the Buccaneers have won the past four NFC South championships.
Yep,
That is impressive.
two
I
with
mean, talk
Tom
about
and two with Baker.
I mean, that's pretty good dominance.
Hmm.
Todd Bowles deserves some credit for being
He's
able
a
to keep
great
the
head
ship
coach. I
afloat.
respect the heck out of him.
I do wonder about his ceiling. What can you realistically
That's
expect out of
fair.
him?
Hmm.
But
He's kind of like Mike Tomlin kind of guy. He's always going to be really competitive, but is he a Super Bowl coach anymore? I don't know.
he kind of strikes me as like a Wade Phillips, like maybe
Hmm.
better as a defensive coordinator, but not a bad head coach.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to follow. But those are my thoughts on the Falcons trade. I don't know if there's anything else
Yeah.
you wanted to talk about that one.
No, no, I think that's good for that one. And there was only one other trade in the first round, and it was kind of a meh. It was the Eagles trade up one spot, giving up that was what, a fifth round pick. I think that was a fifth round pick.
Yeah,
Took up
right.
one spot, and I mean it made sense to go get what was his? I can't remember his name right now.
Jihad Campbell.
Campbell. Yes, yes, Campbell. Because a lot of evaluators said it's a top 10 talent, but he had some injury issues. That's why he was falling. And I mean, back in the first round, there's not really much risk. Say, hey, this guy has potential to be like a top 10 linebacker in the league if he hits his ceiling. And he's got some injury concerns. Let's check him out. And they probably did all the checks on the medicals, and feel confident in bringing him in. And I mean, you guys love drafting high end SEC guys, and it's been working out really well for you.
Well, and I think it's just a matter of one thing you have to really be careful about when you look at your picks is could they have gotten someone like Malachi Starks by trading up for him? Absolutely. But it's that same
Mm-hmm.
thing of, the James Pierce as an edge rusher versus the second round picks. What,
Hmm.
how good is he? Is he more than the value of the picks you give up to get up to go
Right.
get that person? And if he's not, then it's not worth it. You better just stay put and get the best person available. That's a better
Hmm.
strategy to go with. Um, so I think overall I'm a little like unsure of how I feel about the trade. Like not the trade. The trade was great. Like I think the value was just fine. Makes sense.
Right.
Cleveland went and selected a linebacker, Carson from UCLA, Schwesinger in the next round. So I get why they
Hmm.
traded up. Made
Hmm.
sense. The part that I'm like struggling is I'm hearing a narrative that he's supposed to be like a Micah Parsons. That's kind of like the narrative that's coming out in Philly Nation with the move. I don't know if that really makes
Yeah.
sense. He could
I've
be a
heard a
Micah
little
Parsons
different
light.
evaluation. I've heard a little different evaluation on him, but this was only because one of the guys I listen to, who's a big Vikings podcast guy, and he's really huge in the draft and evaluating people. He was saying that Campbell is like a do-it-all linebacker. He can rush the
Mm-hmm.
passer, so Micah Parsons-esque there. He can stop the run, and the biggest thing he can do is he can cover. He can
Right.
run that cover two, and he can sprint downfield and cover the middle of the field and do it well with ease. He can cover tight ends. He can cover slot receivers. So he is a do-it-all true three-down linebacker. I don't see him as just a pass rusher like Parsons is. Like, you're not going to put Parsons in coverage.
No.
He is an elite rusher. I don't think Campbell's an elite rusher. I wouldn't even say he is elite at any of those things. He's just really good at all of them. So I loved him. I was kind of thinking Minnesota had a chance at picking him, but they wanted to solidify their offensive line, get every piece redone, which I'm not complaining about that at all. But that's really good value picking him at 31. If he hits his potential and he stays healthy, that's a question mark, but everyone can get hurt in this league. So you gotta take some risks. You can't just play scared. So I thought that was a really good value. One of the higher values in the draft. And that's just what the Eagles always do. That's what they got Jalen Carter. That's what they do. Quinyon Mitchell last
Nolan
year.
Smith. Nolan
Nolan
Smith is
Smith.
probably to me is like
Hmm.
the biggest epitome of why did he
Yep.
drop to 31? How did that
Hmm.
happen? It's kind of funny, Andrew, because like the qualms that you have about the Buccaneers pick are the qualms I have about this Jihad Campbell pick.
Oh, really?
You know, because like we have N'Kobe Dean, we have Jeremiah Trotter Jr., we have Zach Bond, And so I'm
Hmm.
struggling in my head to see like what is this guy's role going to be with the team? And that's the part I'm like
Hmm.
having heartburn about is
That's
it's
fair.
like I don't see where he's going to fit in necessarily. Um,
Hmm.
Now, if he's going to start for Nakobe Dean when Nakobe Dean's out this year, like as far as for the first little bit, and then he transitions into
Hmm.
another role so that he's consistently providing value as that first round pick, I
Right.
could buy into it, but it's kind of fuzzy at this point.
Hmm.
But I mean, I'm willing to like not worry about it because I mean, Vic Fangio, or as Kirk Herbstreit said famously last year on Amazon Football, Vic Fangino, because he couldn't remember how to pronounce Fangio's name correctly, which I will never let go because anyway, I have personal beef with Kirk Herbstreit, but that's another story for another day. Um, but I trust Fangio. I trust that he knows what he's
Hmm.
doing. I just there's
Yep.
players I really liked that I was hoping the Eagles were going to go for. That
Like
didn't
be
work out the way
aggressive
I was
for, not
hoping.
necessarily falling to you, but like trading up and being aggressive.
Yeah, well, let me try to see who I was thinking of in particular. But I mean, I've already mentioned Malachi Starks. That was someone
Starks for
that's
sure.
like,
Yeah. And there were some D tackles out there like Nolan and Grant, Harmon, those guys.
yes, yes. Harmon, I thought would have made sense for potentially trading up for.
Yeah, he was picked
Um,
at 21, so that wasn't like a long reach to try to get to. Yeah.
And I understand why they didn't go for someone like Williams. I think Williams was like a special fit type of a player, and I don't know if he really fit what we were
Hmm.
looking for. I thought that Harmon and Nolan potentially could have. So I guess I was just hoping for. We have an abundance of picks right now, and it seems
Let's
kind
do
of
something
weird.
special. Yeah.
It just feels weird that we just continue to
Yeah.
sit on them. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, we
You
have
you
them,
only get 53 players on your roster.
right? And that's what I'm kind of confused about. Is like I don't get the direction.
Hmm.
Here's my hesitancy as I look at this draft is Ty Roseman is very well known for peaking and plateauing with drafting
Hmm.
and like forming teams, right? The 2017, wow, top of the world, doing amazing. 2018,
Hmm.
2019, and then 2020, okay, that was really bad. And then we come back, in 2022, and it's like, oh, we're on it again. And in 2023, oh, that was not a good year. So it's like, what's happening right
Hmm.
now? But I mean, you ebb and
Yeah.
flow, right? So I'm just not sure this is going to end up being a stellar draft for the Eagles. That's kind of one of my concerns right now. Is that we'll see. Not feeling very confident, but
Well, you won a Super Bowl, so quit complaining.
listen, Andrew, we could never win enough Super Bowls. We could win the next 10, and I'll be complaining about how do we get the next, 20 after that.
Hmm. But
I
hey,
know
you
it's
you
it's
guys picked a really good player in the second round though with Mbuka. That guy is really good, really underrated. He can play safety, he can play a little corner, he can play the nickel, he can play in the box. He's a guy that again, we're doing a lot of homework on because Minnesota didn't have a second round pick, but a lot of people are thinking, oh, we're gonna trade back, pick up maybe a late second. And that was one guy that we were looking at if we got a late second, like, hey, that's a Flores kind of a guy because he's like a utility. He's a Swiss Army knife, does a little bit of everything, and that's what Flores loves. So you got a really good player in that one.
Yeah, I'm happy with what I'm hearing about Makuba. I just the struggle I'm having with that, it's not him. It's this goes back to the CJGJ moment.
Hmm.
I don't understand why we traded CJGJ when his contract was not significant this year. The cap
Hmm.
savings were not great by trading him, and we only went from having a fourth or from a fifth to a fourth and getting a guard in return.
A
Like
guard,
that's the part I'm
not even a
struggling
good
about is
guard.
like we just created a area of need when we've got
Hmm.
other areas to worry about. We didn't get much of cap savings. Cash savings are there. We saved cash. So it's like that's my struggle is it's like, okay, we
Hmm.
haven't figured out edge, we haven't figured out defensive tackle, we haven't figured out cornerback. Like, what is our plan at these spots? What's our plan at offensive guard? Because I'm not sold on Green. I am not sold on him
Yeah.
being a fixture for the future. So it's a long process. how he likes to take the
Hmm.
entire off season to figure things out. So,
Smoke his
but
cigars.
yes, yes, and get hit by beer cans and get a massive set of
Right.
stitching. Uh, I know I sound like such a spoiled fan when I complain about this. No, I you know, we'll see what happens. I was just hoping for a little more zazz. I was hoping for a little
Yeah.
more. There's some players in the second round: Nick Scourton from Texas
Yeah.
A&M, Elijah Arroyo. Like,
Yeah, you guys
so
think your
bummed.
tight end, like all the best tight ends are gone.
Well,
They're
and
just all those guys just falling off, falling off, falling off, falling off.
Will Johnson, the tight end for Michigan, Terrence Ferguson, Donovan Ezereku goes to the Cowboys, so it's a double loss for us.
Hmm.
Mason Taylor, like there's all these players I kept looking at, and I was like, oh, not him,
Yeah,
man.
and
We lost him too.
For the Cowboys, other than Booker, I wasn't a huge fan of that. I thought that was a little too high for him. But their other picks, those are really good value picks. I was like, okay. I think they got, yeah, the safety from South Carolina, I believe.
Is it Siobhan? Is how you say it?
Oh, the corner, yeah, the corner, yeah, Siobhan Ravel. They got him, and then they got that edge rusher you were mentioning. Those guys are rated a little higher than where they got them, so they got value there. Um, Booker,
Agreed.
meh. I get what they did because they're always wanting to draft O linemen. That's just what they do in the first round. But that was a little bit of a reach for him. I wasn't in love with that one, but the other two picks, man, gotta give them credit.
Yeah, I'm guessing the reason why they didn't trade back was they were probably worried about Seattle, right? I'm guessing because Seattle also went guard,
Yeah, they
so
went
maybe they
Gray
were
Zabel,
worried
but
about.
I mean, they could have traded down to 17 then with the Bengals. The Bengals could have got like a really good defensive player. Bengals probably would have signed
Well,
up for that.
but you always like to mention too, it takes two to tango, right? So
That's
maybe
very true. Very true.
there was
Yep.
no one that wanted to trade at the value they were looking for, and so they just decided
Hmm.
to stand pat, not risk losing them.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. A lot of people I list to and what I was looking at, I didn't really have Booker as the number one guard. He was top three for sure, but not number one. But hey, Cowboys might have viewed it differently and said, yeah, that's our guy. And so they went and got him. Say that pans out. Um, but on my side, I was kind of the same way with you. I was wanting a little more zazz for the Vikings. I was wanting a trade down because we only had four picks. But again, like you said, it takes two to tango. And like I mentioned earlier, they really wanted Donovan Jackson, and he was not going to go past 25. Texans would 100% would have drafted him. And so I kind of get it. And I remember in the press conference that O'Connell had right after we lost in the playoff game to the Rams, he threw the interior of the offensive line under the bus, and he never throws anyone under the bus. He's always yeah, we're doing what we can do. He's always kind of that motivator, encourager, always loves his team. He threw them under the bus after that game because it was something crazy like 8 sacks and like 40 pressures in one game. One game. That's that's not acceptable. And so he made a mission to get with Kwesi and revamp that O line. They picked up Will Fries and Ryan Kelly, and then going to get a just huge young stud in Donovan Jackson. That O line has the potential to be like top three in this league right now because they have two of the best tackles and Darisaw and O'Neal. They're both top five at least. And now to have the interior like it is, I think that Minnesota is going to be more balanced than ever. They're going to be running the football. Jordan Mason, Aaron Jones, and they probably are going to get another back, either UDFA or maybe in the fifth round. And then their third round pick, I thought was kind of interesting. So they traded down. Instead of getting another pick, they just traded down and moved up 45 spots from their last pick. So it's a good value. They go down 5 spots and then go up 45 spots. So overall, it's good value. I just thought we were going to get another pick or two, but it is what it is. And then they went and drafted Ty Felton, which I thought was interesting. I kind of thought they might draft a receiver, but the receiver they got kind of tells me something about the receiver room. So Ty Felton is a speedster. He is a run down field, beats people one on one, high point the ball. He's got a great vertical for his size. he reminds me a lot of Jalen Naylor, who they already have on their team. And Jalen Naylor hasn't quite panned out. He's the number three for years. He's shown like spurts of good play, spurts of bad play, just hasn't quite fully clicked. I think he's gone. I don't think they're going to cut him this year, or they probably can't trade him, but this is going to be his last year. He's on his last year of his contract. He's not getting re-signed. I think Jalen Naylor's gone. I think Ty Felton's going to just walk right in his shoes and take over that role. I thought we were going to slowly phase out of Jordan Addison because of his off-field stuff. But with this pick, this isn't a Jordan Addison role. This is a Jalen Naylor role. So I think Jalen Naylor is going to be phased out starting next year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see how it works out. Um,
Hmm.
but once you get into the third round, you just got to start taking
Yeah,
um, you just got to take stabs in the dark and see who's going to
right.
stick.
Hmm.
Um, it is interesting. I was just thinking about that. Literally thought the same thing about the trade that they didn't get an extra pick.
Hmm.
I feel like that's almost something you have to figure out. Because if you don't, I feel like it's a knock. You need to get one more
Hmm.
pick, even if Houston threw in a seventh round pick next year, you need to get something to build on.
Hmm.
Like I guess the way I look at it is, I look at it like you have a regular bank account, and this extra pick should be like your CD. It should be something that you
Hmm.
grow. It should turn into something else later. Like maybe you take that seventh and it turns into a sixth round pick next year. Like that's kind of the
Hmm.
way I would try to strategize it. Um, but you got to take what you can get. And maybe Minnesota's just not liking the board. And if they took Ty Felton at the earlier spot, I don't think that would, you know,
Right.
it's five spots. And if
Yeah.
you didn't feel like he was going to
And
get taken,
and on their board in the fifth round, they might have two guys they really like. And now they have pick 139 and 142. So pretty much back to back in the fifth round. Or they could
yeah,
package that up and move up in the fourth and get like a really good player that like it. They have a little bit more flexibility because pick 187, no one probably cared about that pick. They're like, yeah, go away. We don't want that pick. But 139 and 142, maybe. We might think about that a little bit. So overall, it was good value. Just wish they could have got a little more. Like you said, another pick, get trade two for three or one for two or something. But instead, it was just pick swaps pretty much.
I mean, the one thing I will say about the Vikings though is it's awesome that you're going to have a third and fourth round comp pick coming to you guys this offseason. At least
Yeah,
that's
that
my
was part of the
projections.
reason why I was kind of thinking, hey, are they going to get aggressive? Because Kwesi's shown he's being aggressive recently. Like his first 2 years, he was kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to trade back, get more picks. But here lately, he's been aggressive, trading for TJ Hawkinson, trading up in the first round twice last year. He's shown some aggression lately. And I thought, hey, we're getting most likely, not confirming, getting most likely a third and a four or a third and a five next year, two extra picks. Is he going to trade our third and our five and move up this year? And then we have the same allotment because we're getting these comp picks next year. He didn't do it. I bet you he tried. I bet you he called and said, saw what he can do, but no one said yes to it because he's been aggressive. So that's kind of the vibe I was getting. Like, are they going after someone? Are they going to be trading up because they had the ammo from next year's draft allotment?
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to follow to see how things are shaping up for them for the I think it's just showing me this year. I was wanting to see how many draft picks you guys are predicted to have next year. Do you know that off the top of your
I
head?
think we have um I think we have all but our four next year. I think we don't
Hmm.
have our four. So we have our first, second, third, our fifth. I think we have two sevens, and so and our six. So I think, and then with our third round comp, probably, and our fourth or fifth round comp, we're probably looking at 9 or 10 picks next year.
Okay,
So we have a decent
that's a pretty
allotment.
good.
Yeah. So I
It's a
was
good
thinking that
draft.
we were gonna hey maybe throw one of those two in and try to trade up this year or get another pick this year instead of the only four we had. But so far we stood pat on that. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, the Eagles are currently sitting on 12 draft picks next year. Trying to not be
Yeah.
annoyed about that, Andrew.
Like I
Trying
said,
to
if
not be
if
annoyed.
if a couple draft picks just fall out of your pocket and we just happen to pick it up, I'm saying we won't complain.
I just once you have more than 10 picks, that's too many. Like you got to
Rick
start thinking
Spielman was
ahead.
always that way. Rick Spielman was always our GM before Kwesi was always just getting so many picks, so many 6 and 7 round picks. There were some drafts he had like 16 picks and it was ridiculous because probably
Hmm.
4 of those stayed on your team for any longer than 2 years. It was it's just crazy what some GMs think. We need all the picks we can get, take so many shots in the dart in the 6th and 7th round when probably that's like a 10 or 15% chance of hitting, if that.
Yeah, I I don't know. I think it's okay to have 10 picks, but once you start having more than 10,
Hmm.
like I think about it this way. It's different sport, different setup, but the Jazz and the NBA collected
Hmm.
too many first round picks and are now selling first round picks for one first round pick later out of the hopes and prayers that this first round pick turns into a lottery pick.
Lottery pick. Hmm.
Like I feel like that's a horrible idea. And I think the same thing applies here. It's good to
Hmm.
have capital in the future, but you need to make sure that you're being aggressive now because
Hmm.
you don't know how much it's going to be worth later. Like, yes, I'm a fan of building for the future, but like this is what the Eagles have next year: first, a second, three threes, two fours, four fives, and a seven.
Oh,
We've compiled
four
too much.
fives.
What are we doing? Like, here's the only thing I would say is justifies it. If Howie's going to get serious about maybe looking at a rental player, okay, then I could see why you've compiled all
Mm.
this because a 4 to 5 to 6, that tends to be the draft pick that's traded. But are you seriously planning on drafting players with these draft picks? I don't know. Like I said, it's hard because
Yeah.
I think Howie's a great GM. I have just seen so many ups and downs with him that I feel like we
Hmm.
might be heading into a down right now with our draft pick strategy. And so it's hard because I'm like, Howie, I'm trying not to be jaded. I'm trying not to think
Uh-huh.
about 2018 through 2020. I'm trying not to think about 2023, but I'm slightly worried that you're putting us into another slump.
Hmm.
So, but maybe he needs the slumps to get the highs. And that could be true. There was a good book I read about that, talking about honestly how the Eagles anticipate the slumps, and the key is to not avoid the slumps, but make the slumps as quick as possible to get through.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we'll see.
And also, you got to look for the UDFAs. There's going to be a lot of good UDFAs in this draft because I
Yes.
mentioned to you because this draft has a lot of the COVID players from that first season, so they had like extra year of eligibility. So this draft it has like a lot more of the depth players, like in the 4 to 6 round range. There's a lot more than there's ever been. So there's going to be a lot of UDFAs that could make a difference as far as like making a roster, making a depth piece. Not like a stud starter, but rotation guy, like a fourth defensive tackle or a fourth cornerback, something that's valuable that you're going to get as a UDFA. I think that's going to happen a lot. And I'll give Kwesi credit. The Minnesota Vikings GM has done really good with UDFAs. Really good. So I'm excited to see how that happens.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. Agreed. Well, I think that's the major notes for me from the draft so far. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to cover.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that's the major storylines, the major vibe, so to speak, of it. We'll get into pick by pick kind of a thing and see some of our favorite values, some of our big question marks. I think we'll disagree on some of those, like we touched on. But as far as the overall first few rounds, I think I'm pretty set.
Okay. Sounds good. I look forward to eventually we'll have to dig into the Matthew Golden breaking the Packers mentality discussion.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, we'll touch on him on our next episode because I have some thoughts on that. I have some thoughts on that.
Some coping mechanisms.
Not
I'm just
necessarily
joking,
that,
Andrew.
but that particular receiver being drafted there, I don't know. He gives me Christian Watson vibes, and they already have that.
But was he a first round pick, Andrew?
He was a high second.
Yes, I know. I'm just teasing. Yeah, it, we'll see how it pans out. It was interesting for
hmm
sure. Yeah. Well, it'll be fun to follow for the rest of the draft. We'll see how everyone else goes.
Yeah,
And
day three.
goodness, how much longer does the Sanders fall continue? That will be
Let me
fascinating.
see. Let's make our guesstimations here real quick. Let me see the fourth round. Who is on the clock that has a chance to draft him? No, 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 no. Okay, the Jets at pick 110 kind of makes some sense. Maybe, like I said, the Niners at 113. Hey, maybe the Colts draft a quarterback at 117.
I know it's weird, man, but the Eagles have two fourth round picks. I could see them.
Yeah,
Howie loves having a quarterback factory. He's talked about
yeah.
this relentlessly.
You always got to be prepared.
But the Colts make a ton of sense. The Jets make a ton of sense. I don't think
hmm
he's going to go high fourth round. I think he'll go end of fourth round.
Yeah, I could see middle to end. Yeah, for sure. Unless someone trades up that is wanting him in the top of the fourth round because it's the fourth round. Who cares? You're just gonna give up another seven to move up a few spots.
The 49ers have the last pick of the fourth round.
hmm
That's Steelers 123.
Yeah.
Who's going to take him, Andrew? If you're tell me who you think's going to
I,
take him.
oh man. Yeah, it's not gonna be the Browns because they picked Gabriel. Oh man. I think I got narrowed down to two. If I had to pick one, I'm gonna pick the Jets. I'm gonna pick the Jets because it's New York City. You know, he'd be great in that media, and all they have is Justin Fields right now. He can beat out Justin Fields. So I think I'm going Jets. What about you?
I think he's going to go to the Raiders at 135, or with the Raiders' second pick of the fourth round.
Okay.
I I just got this weird feeling. I feel like that Pete Carroll, tonight he's going to get a phone call with Geno Smith, talk him through
hmm
this, and ask him an honest question. Do you think you could help this guy humble himself and prepare himself to be a starter in the NFL? And I feel like they're going to talk about it and mull it over. And I think they'd consider it. I'm not sure about the Steelers. I'm not
Yeah.
feeling that. My
Yeah. They
guess
got Aaron
is
Rodgers coming.
my hunch is it's a team we're not expecting. Like it's a team that the national
Watch me the
media is
Dolphins or
not.
something.
That honestly could make sense with all the injury concerns with Tua. It's fair, but it's going to be a team we're not expecting, like Baltimore
Yeah.
Ravens, or it's that's how I think we're at
Cardinals.
right now. That's another great team. I thought about it, and the only question is this going to affect Kyler Murray in a Carson Wentz esque, you know,
hmm
completely losing his mind and not playing competent football as a result? I don't know,
Yeah.
but that one I feel like the rumors could start. Whereas Geno Smith just signed a contract extension and has entrenched himself with the
hmm
coach that he knows. I
Right.
just I feel like that situation could work, but who knows, man? Maybe he'll go to the Jets and the diva, you know, vibes will continue for everybody.
hmm
Um, yeah, it'll be fascinating. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Anything else you want to touch on?
No, that's it, man. It's late, but it was good to dig into this and excited to chat more about it
Absolutely.
here soon.
All right. I agree. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Gridiron and Grind with Andrew and Lance. Next time, we'll dive into more specifics with the draft, first round for sure. We'll probably dive into some other areas that we liked or disliked. But be sure to subscribe, comment, like, share, ring the bell, all those fun things. Help us grow this thing. And we will see you guys next time.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.